Hi, Mike Kennedy with you. Otzi the Iceman. I love this book. It's by Angelika Fleckinger. I'll put that down below in the description. The full facts at a glance. This is nice because it goes through kind of everything in a short, distinct manner. And then I've supplemented what I know by watching documentaries on YouTube. And it always fascinates me. Otzi had these two tools with him, a knife and a sharpener. Now, of course, they weren't like this. They were 5,000 years ago. And so he had a dagger that had a point similar to this, but it was broken in the top. Probably would have been a little squatter, but it and the handle for this dagger were only 5 inches long. It wasn't very long at all. And because everything was so well preserved, this was a big, kind of a really big deal, because wooden parts usually decay, but in the ice here, they persisted. So he had it halved or attached to a piece of wood, and he had it wrapped. And so that was his dagger. And again, the point was missing. So how was he going to do that? Well, he had a sharpening device, not like this, but he had, again, a stick about 5 inches long that he could easily grip. And what was put in the tip of it was a antler that had been hardened in a fireplace. So by a lot of materials, including flint, sometimes will take on a much better strength if they've been properly hardened in fire. And even now, knives need to be hardened, and that provides the real characteristics that you want in the metal. Just using raw metal, you heat it, you do this to it, you cut it, and all these things destroy what they call tempering. But it's basically that same idea, heat treating. They have ovens you can even buy if you're doing yourself. They have ovens you can make out of coffee cans. There's quite a few videos about that. But the rate at which this cools at once it's been heated up, and how long it has to cool down affects the actual strength of the knife. So what Otzi would have done with the broken point, if he wasn't able to replace it, he eventually would have gone back in with that tool and flaked off fine pieces until he could get a point back. And actually, he might have just taken he could have probably just taken the top part. The top part was gone, right? Well, he could have just sharpened that flat and would have made it an acceptable tool. It just fascinates me that the sharpener, like I say, was fire-tempered deer antler. So, there's a lot of technology involved there. A lot of, extreme amount of skill to make knives and arrowheads. I watched one video by an archaeologist, and he was specifically talking more about Neanderthals then. And I learned, how do you say Neanderthal or Neanderthal? And I guess now the correct one is tall, because it's a German name, and it's based off a German name, this place, and it should be pronounced tall, not Sal, so that is more correct. Look, you'd be surprised at the number of places you check on how to pronounce it. They have the old pronunciation, and then we've got this new one that's, I don't know, it seems like to me that's like maybe even only 5 years old, you saying Neanderthal instead of Neanderthal. But it took him, this one guy, 18 months to have enough skill to have some success in breaking, you know, a material uh, like flint to get it into the type of things Neanderthal even used. Now we have a lot of people that are into knapping. This was actually sent to me. It wasn't attached to a necklace or anything, but a viewer sent me this, and just an incredible amount of skill, time, and patience goes into something like this. And I was in this research, I was watching about them talking about, making things out of stone, and of course, uh, you make it, and at any point it can just shatter and be no good. If you hit it wrong, maybe there's some internal fracture in there you don't see, but they were even saying this idea of having it fluted. In other words, there's a divot here. Maybe fluted is not the right word there. That would be along the edges. But they've made a place so that you can attach, some type of, cordage to attach it onto your arrow, or if it's a spear or whatever. But I just thought it was interesting that Otzi had those two tools. Now, besides having that, he also had a sheath. There was a sheath, a crude sheath there too, that he used with a knife. And he also had some pieces of flint. And what they've determined, there's the dagger and the case, the sheath. And let me just see if we've got that here. I might have read that somewhere else, but he had several shards of flint. I remember that part. And one of them could be used as a drill. It was finer, really crude though. And he also had a piece that was more that he could have used for a scraper or a knife. And he didn't bother to put a handle on it. He just used it as it was. Here we go. We've got this, the one on the right here is the drill. Then this other one for cutting, scraping. And then he's got another piece, a razor sharp blade for cutting or scraping. Well, this one says for cutting and carving, where this other one would be for scraping. Some materials, you also can flake obsidian, which is kind of basically a natural occurring glass. It's usually black, but not always. And you can get the edge on that sharper than the sharpest surgeon's scalpel. And actually, believe it or not, surgeons under certain applications actually use a knife that has it. The tip is composed of obsidian rather than metal, and it's just interesting too. There was some current, or probably there still is. People come up with these theories and everything, and then someone else challenges it. But he had an arrowhead in his back, stuck in his back, and the shaft wasn't there, which to me might indicate that he was killed on purpose, or maybe he could have been killed accidentally, I don't know. But the point is, they removed the shaft of the arrow. They went to him and pulled that out. And why did they do that? Well, arrows were kind of, especially this was true with Native Americans too. You could tell who made, what group made the arrow because of the way it was constructed. Maybe there's even some colorful design or something, or just even the way the feathers are attached. So there are all these markers that would indicate that they went there after, he's incapacitated at least. They pulled their shaft back out. Now, I suppose you could say they wanted to reuse it, but I think it was because of identification. And, one of the things that he had with him, which was extremely valuable, was his copper axe. And to have killed him for profit and not taking that axe, that would have been like you're on a street corner, you hold someone up, you actually kill him, and you find out, you see that he's got a Rolex watch, and you don't take it. Well, I think with them, they knew, just like if you were in a small group of people, say someone on my street, I end up extinguishing him, and then he's wearing that Rolex. I take it, I start wearing it. It's not going to be too long before the people around are like, so and so got shot or killed, and he had a Rolex on, and now we see that same Rolex on Mike. So that's why I think they didn't take that, because that was extremely valuable. And they've done analysis of his body, and were able to determine that he had quite a bit of copper and arsenic in his body. So they think Otzi actually forged the copper axe himself, or he lived near where they would do it, because they had that. I guess arsenic is common to be with, there's the axe, to be with copper, and the smelting process and everything. It was interesting because it's kind of like an axe head, okay, but they've got it mated quite a bit different, so that just this top is coming out. And when they first look at it, they say, this is ridiculous. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't chop things down with this. This must have been either an ornamental thing or a weapon. Well, it could be used as a weapon, but sure enough, we have an archaeologist that goes about making the axe as similar as he possibly can, and he was able to fell this tree. I don't know, let's say the tree looks like this section of it was 5 inches across, and it took him 45 minutes to fell a tree, but he could do it. And we're just not sometimes up with how, because they didn't have electricity, maybe they didn't have the wheel, sometimes we degrade the intelligence of people in the past. And it's like with them, well, instead of learning to drive a car, you learned how to nap. Instead of such and such, going to school, you learn from, the community, your parents. You learned about plants. You learned about what stones were there to affect what type of thing you wanted done. So you had this huge body of knowledge, and you knew how to use it. And what I'm saying here is ancient people were extremely intelligent, some of them. There's no indication that they would be, less intelligent than we are. And so that's it for these two tools that we'll say that Otzi had in a version. If we went back in time, this would turn into a handle with a piece of antler sticking out, and this would turn into the wood handle and the haft blade. They even said that they would never have suspected that this was a knife because it was fairly small, the dagger, unless it had been found attached to the handle that it was. And usually these wood elements, they just rot away. They're usually not. A lot of times they don't even get fossilized. They're just gone. And so we had those two things, and he had a case that he made as well for the dagger. But we'll talk about a few of his other tools and things to come, especially the mushrooms he had with him. Bye.